Alright, welcome back everybody to my YouTube channel. This is the Jordan Report and this is your host Robert Jordan. Please like, subscribe, and share. Alright, we're just going to give another overview of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. And we're going to go back a little bit and see if we can reconstruct what happened. As we know, a couple of weeks ago, Jeffrey attempted suicide. And so we're going to go back there and see what happened there and see was that any relevant to what happened today or yesterday, whenever he killed himself. This is, what day was this? I think it's July 25th. Jeffrey Epstein, the millionaire financier who was being held on federal sex trafficking charges, was found injured and in a fetal position in his cell at New York City jail. Sources close to the investigation told NBC. Epstein, 66, was found semi-conscious with marks on his neck in his cell at MCC in Manhattan sometime in the last 2 days, the sources said. Epstein is on suicide watch, two sources said. While the two sources said that Epstein may have tried to hang himself, a third source cautioned that the injuries weren't serious, questioning whether Epstein may have staged an attack or a suicide attempt to get a transfer to another facility. Another source said an assault hadn't been ruled out, and that another inmate in Epstein's unit, identified by sources as Nicholas Targioni, had been questioned. Sources also said Epstein and Targioni were cellmates. They actually put him in a cell with somebody else. That's dangerous to sell. Targioni, 49, is a former police officer in Briarcliff, Maine, New York, who was arrested in 2016 and accused of killing 4 men in an alleged cocaine distribution conspiracy, then burying their bodies in his yard in Otisville, according to court records. He was charged with drug conspiracy and 4 counts of murder and is awaiting trial. They had him in the same cell with Epstein. That's odd right there. But anyway, let me move on because we're trying to get somewhere. I'm going to show you where this is going. Here's a former inmate. This was 13 hours ago. They just posted. This is a former inmate at the same jail. He says there's no way Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, a former NYC jailmate says. He said you can't do it. The following account is from a former inmate at MCC in the lower Manhattan, where Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive Saturday and declared dead at a hospital of an apparent suicide. The ex-convict, who spoke to the Post, Brad Hamilton and Bruce Golding, on the condition of anonymity, spent several months in the 9 South Special Housing Unit for high-profile prisoners awaiting trial like Epstein. 9 South Special Housing Unit. Remember that. There's no way this man could have killed himself. I've done too much time in those units. It's an impossibility. Between the floor and the ceiling is like 8 or 9 feet. There's no way for you to connect to anything. You have sheets, but they're paper level, not strong enough. He was 200 pounds. It would never happen. When you're on suicide watch, they put you in this white smock, a straitjacket. They know a person cannot be injurious to themselves. The clothing they give you is a jump-in uniform. Everything is dark brown clothing. Could they have done it from the bed? No, sir. There's a steel frame, but you can't move it. There's no light fixtures. There's no bars. They don't give you enough in there that could successfully create an instrument of death. You want to write a letter? They give you rubber pens and maybe once a week a piece of paper. Nothing hard or made of metal. And there's a cop at the door every 9 minutes, whether you're on suicide watch or not. There's up to 80 people there. They could put 2 in the cell. It's 1 or 2, but I'll never believe this guy had a cellmate. He was too blown up. Obviously he did at one time. The damage that unit could do to someone. It's like you're an animal and you've been brought into a kennel. A guy like Jeffrey, it's like holy shirt. I told my parents not to come there. God wasn't in the building. I had some heavy incidents in that building. What happened is permanent. Some of the guards on major power trip. They know guys are suffering. They know something the rest of the world hasn't seen. That a place like this exists in this country, and they get off on it. If the guards see that the guy is breaking, they're going to help you break. But it's my firm belief that Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. It just didn't happen. He's saying you can't do it there. He said the guards are sadistic and love what they're doing. So let me move on to the next article, because here's the connection to that. And this one is about the corruption in the facility, which is what he was just talking about. How corrupt are things at the MCC where Jeffrey Epstein was held? This was produced today. Okay, I think it was produced today. Yes, August 11th. The jail where Jeffrey Epstein apparently hanged himself was a nest of corruption in the early 90s, according to one of the late mobster John Gotti's top associates, who insists it's still a place where almost anything can be bought if you have the bucks. If he killed himself, someone had to have helped him, said Louis Caseman, a one-time close confidant of the Dapper Don who visited Godfather several times at the MCC in 1992. Their cameras going 24/7 and they're watching 24/7. Someone had to give Epstein the equipment to kill himself, and he had to pay for it dearly, said Caseman, who has kept abreast of conditions in the lockup. Caseman added, that facility for years has had issues with corruption, with correction officers bringing in food or cell phones for wealthy people. You could imagine that. Gangsters and all these people with these millions of dollars. The former Gambino bean counter noted that Gotti, who did time both in the jail's 9 South and 10 South unit, its most secure wings, still managed to get his favorite steak dinner sneaked in. He had Peter Luger's whenever he wanted. I guess Peter Luger is probably some upscale steakhouse that, somebody like Gotti would hang out in. But he got his steak dinner whenever he wanted. Okay? Now I'm going to move on to this, the next story here. And this is from the Intel Hub. This was also produced today. Prison workers, 4chan posts 10 minutes before news of Jeffrey Epstein's death hit the media. Guy in green dress military outfit switched him out. This was produced today also. 4chan is one of those Reddit type sites where people can post things. He says, prison worker claimed an unmarked van and unknown military personnel showed up at the Metropolitan Correctional Facility Friday night where accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein was being held in and switched him out with a dead look-alike. A correction officer posted this on 4chan. Jeffrey Epstein was handcuffed and wheeled into medical at the MCC around 4:15 p.m. Friday night, just before an unmarked van containing unknown military personnel showed up unannounced to switch him out, according to an anonymous post, time-stamped nearly 10 minutes prior to the actual mainstream news media's release of accused sex trafficker's death by suicide, which hit the press Saturday morning around 8:53. So this guy posts this right before all this happens. He says a military van drove up and got Jeffrey Epstein out. The anonymous message posted 4chan 844 reads, not saying anything after this. Please do not try to dox me. But last night after 4:15, they took Epstein to the medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we know, trip vans show up. We do not do releases on weekend unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing, the trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number. And a guy with a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy that let him through the gate. You guys, I am shaking right now. But I think they switched him out. Isn't that something? Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this one here, and this next I'm going to show you a video. of Gregg Jarrett, and that'll be the end of this post. Here's some of the pictures that have been showing up. These people are debunking the pictures of Jeffrey Epstein's death on the gurney that has been shown in New York, in the New York Post and New York Times. I believe New York Times. I'm not exactly sure of that. But these are the pictures that you're showing of his death. This guy is saying they're all photoshopped. He said Epstein gurney photos faked. The New York Post used random EFFD-MET training photos and screwed up. This one was taken in the FD, the Fire Department New York garage, when it was supposed to be at the hospital. See, he's looking at the wall. Look at all the stuff in the back. I'm sure they pasted these guys here. These guys were pasted in. This is what he's saying. But this is the garage where the fire department parks the trucks. It says, sign says, please turn off engines. Okay? This is one that he said was actually taken at the hospital and probably still a training pic. But you can see it's the same people imposed on the photograph. This one was taken in the garage. I'll post these things for you so you guys can look this up yourself. Okay? But he also shows the pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and the lookalikes, saying they're not the same picture. Ears tell a lot. He was looking at the ears. Look at the ears and the facial. Second picture is the latest one of the Epstein alive. Then flip the same position as the dead one. Nose, ears, and profile are completely different. So they're saying that they staged this guy's death, and he was whisked away in the middle of the afternoon by military people. Bottom line, Epstein is alive. He got smuggled out of the jail when there was no security for 3 entire hours, and someone else put in his place, possibly dead. I can't explain why the head on the gurney was the wrong size, but it's obvious this particular story is not even close to what was recorded. I agree. We've all been screwed, man. You never know with these people. You never know. You just never know. You have to keep watching them, and that's what we're going to be doing. All right, this is Gregg Jarrett talking on the subject, and then we're going to close out after this.
Your take on the suicide of Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, given evidence of an attack most recently against him, they're going to want to conduct an investigation to make sure that this is indeed self-inflicted, that this was suicide. But the fact that he was in a solitary cell most recently and on suicide watch, I agree with DeRoy that it is baffling how somebody on suicide watch, who is routinely checked every hour, and usually there are cameras, could manage to accomplish a suicide. And not only that, when you're on suicide watch in a jail cell, under normal protocol, they remove absolutely everything in the cell that could be used for hanging. It's always problematic about bed sheets, but they use, weaker sheets that wouldn't sustain the weight of an individual. So I'm not quite sure how he managed to accomplish this unless they violated their own protocols. So it's curious. Obviously, the criminal charges have vanished, but there will be a myriad of civil lawsuits. There are some already against him. Those will proceed now against his estate, and there are considerable assets. But Epstein, as a potential witness against others, that has gone.
All right. He said that's why he disappeared. Some people say he's on the way to Israel. Epstein was a Jewish person, and he had connections in Israel. And once he gets there, he's gone, if that's where he's gone. All right, that'll be all.